What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Goat Shed Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Nick Connect. Alongside me is the exhilarating Jacob Bowles. Jacob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing just great. It is a cool midnight on Saturday when this thing is getting recorded. Last second, as always.
Yeah, I mean, we it was on the back of our mind, but we're here now, so excited to dive into what we have today. So, Nick, you want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about
So
what
today
we're kind of?
we're kind of doing our first news type podcast. So since we started this podcast, there hasn't been sports going on, but we finally have a little bit of news over the last week or so. There's been a lot of stuff coming out about the NBA and whether it is going to be able to return to make a playoffs, regular season, whatever they're going to do. Probably edging towards just playoffs, but there's been a lot of stuff to come out, so we're gonna dive into that. We're gonna talk about all of that. We're gonna give our opinions on the matter, what we think's gonna happen with the season, and go from there.
Yeah. So, most recently, the executives of the league sent out a mass text to all the players, over 400 of them. It was a yes or no question of whether they wanted to continue the season or not.
Hmm.
So I don't think they've released the results yet,
But I would assume it's a landslide.
but I assume that most players are going to want to continue the season out
Hmm.
some one way or another.
Hmm. Whether
So
that
I mean,
is I don't. I think if the season is to return, I think it's gonna jump straight into the postseason, and it's gonna be listen. The standings that we have now, that's where they're going to stand. It sucks that some teams don't have the chance to make the playoffs, and other teams don't have the chance to fight for proper seeding so they can get out of
yeah.
matchups. But I think that there's going to be if we're going to see basketball again this season, there's going to be bullets that will be have to take bullets that will be bit, and I think that's going to be one of them.
I mean, realistically, only one side kind of has a little battle going
Yeah,
for
the eighth
getting
spot.
into the playoffs at least.
Hmm.
So, I mean, both sides. I mean, Memphis has a 3-game lead on Portland,
Hmm.
2.5. Sorry, but
Forgive you.
and I mean, in the East, it's a 6-game difference, which that's pretty big towards the end of the
Yeah.
season.
Once you get exactly.
So, I mean, it sucks. Those teams aren't going to get a chance to fight. Maybe try to get in, but
But
I
I
think
mean,
a lot of these are kind of locked down already.
yeah, but then it does suck, but you have to look at the situation we're in and what's happening on this planet right now.
Yeah,
It sucks,
I
but
mean,
I mean, as much as we all want to see basketball, right now it's bigger than basketball. And
you gotta put health first. I mean, you can't risk these players who've already shown you've had players get it during the
yeah,
season.
so that's gonna be really interesting. What do you think's gonna happen if? So I guess we're gonna get into that later. First, we're gonna talk about real quick. So Adam Silver had a big Zoom. I would assume Zoom, whatever they had the meeting on. I don't know if it was Zoom, but video call meeting with the Players Association. So that's kind of the way I understand the player associations. I think every player could technically be in it. It's kind of like the union of the NBA, but it's led by Chris Paul, LeBron, Kawhi Leonard. It's just kind of all the superstars, all the faces of the
Yeah,
NBA, representing the players. So the players have representation, and it's not just their front offices. So they have their own independent thing. So he had a Zoom call with them or whatever it was, and where basically he was telling them stuff like, "Hey, there's going to be a lot of hard decisions coming up if we are to have this season to happen." And he was basically telling all of them that they're gonna have to suck it up and
yeah,
whatever Adam Silver says, he says. Because if you think about it, Adam Silver has his team and probably the best doctors and scientists on the
Mhm.
planet feeding him
Yeah.
information. He's going with all the state and federal governments. It's just whenever these decisions get made, it was carefully calculated, and it's going to be what they truly believe is the best decision to keep this league going and keep this league healthy.
Yeah. I mean, when you're dealing with something that's big enough to cause every single major sports to shut down, that's how you know it's that serious. So, I mean, yeah, we all would love to watch them play and it be the conference finals right now. I believe this weekend.
Oh man, Miami would be beating Milwaukee, Jacob.
Uh, yeah, and the Lakers would have started
Swept.
sweeping the
Lakers would have swept.
Clippers.
Speaking of the Lakers, Jacob, did you know that the
Yeah.
Los Angeles Lakers have the greatest player of all time on their team?
Wait. Really? I did not know that
His name
actually.
is
Can you?
his name is LeBron James,
Oh,
So, I mean,
yeah.
as good as Jordan was, I'm not disrespecting Jordan here, but like Jordan can't make his teammates better. Never has, never will. LeBron can make Matthew Dellavedova look like an appetizing piece of meat. So
It's insane to see. I mean,
LeBron's
just
the goat.
nothing compares.
Jordan's great too, but King James. All right.
All right, I'm back onto the
Back on Adam Silver and
yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah, so you were telling me before. He said he's thinking it's going to be hopefully a 2 to 4 week decision.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Woj tweeted it out that Adam Silver is looking and nearing towards in the next 2 to 4 weeks he will have a definite. The NBA season's done. We will try again next season, and if they do try again next season, that would suck. But I mean, it's at this point. We've made it this far. Whatever happens, happens. You got to do what's best for the safety of the players and the safety of
It's just
the staff. But if they do make a decision, he's going to come out. It's going to show their plan. I think if he does make a decision in the next 2 weeks to a month, then I would say realistically, if basketball is to happen, it will not be till mid to late July.
yeah. I mean, they say they have to have a 2 week training period before to get players back into
get
it.
all the players that are all definitely not practicing at the facilities.
So you got to give a 2 week cushion too when you think about it. So I mean, it could even go into August.
So I guess we can talk about if this does happen, if they do find a way to make this season happen. I think it's gonna be interesting. So what do you think? When will the next season start? Because they've always. This is something we haven't actually talked about, like on the pod or even off the pod. So you might not know this. The NBA's always wanted to start their seasons in December because it was proposed a while ago. They just never wanted to make the switch because it just didn't make sense. But now, if they do have the season, end in August or September, it makes sense to start in December. So the big reason they wanted to start in December was so they could miss football. So they weren't at the tail end of football starting in October. So then you would have all of that viewership because in America, football beats basketball still right now.
I mean, yeah.
So if you don't have to compete with the NFL for viewership, you have that whole starting in December where you are the only sport. Baseball done, football done. We're in America, not Canada, so hockey does not matter.
I mean, yeah. It's one of the only indoor guaranteed sports out there.
That'd be interesting. But to make this season happen, a big thing that has been swirling around is a season in a bubble. Is what playoffs in a bubble, I guess, because I personally don't think a regular season will happen. But a playoff in a bubble. So a lot of speculations have been that they will put the two conferences to one market each. So, like, for example, like the cities and places that are being thrown around is like the East, for example, would be in Disneyland. And then the West would be in Las Vegas, just so they had all the players in two cities, so it was so much easier to control. And then I assume with that, it's going to be daily coronavirus checks, daily
test, daily temperature, stuff like that. And do you think it's going to be fanless?
Oh, 100%. I don't think there'll be fans in the stands next year.
Yeah, true. I mean, unless they get it figured out by then, but
I don't think there would be fans in the stands for a lot of sports
for a while. Yeah, it's gonna be weird.
I don't think the NFL is gonna have fans in the stands. This
no,
year, I don't. I mean, I think it's gonna be weird. There's gonna be ripple effects of this virus for the foreseeable future, but definitely not this year. There's not a chance.
No,
not a chance. There's even anyone but like coaches and players there. But if this does happen, it'll be interesting. But the big problem with this is, so they Adam Silver said in this season in the bubble thing that if someone on the teams were to test positive for the coronavirus, there would be a 2-day shutdown of the league, and then they would figure it out. But the interesting thing to me is, let's say, for example, we'll go to the Lakers here. Who is the 15th man on the Lakers? Can you think? Who's the worst player on the Lakers? KCP.
Like Troy Daniels.
I will just say, for example, let's say KCP gets the coronavirus. All right, they take the 2-day break. But what if LeBron or Anthony Davis ends up getting the coronavirus? I feel like if that would happen to a bigger name player, I feel like they wouldn't do that 2-day shutdown. I feel like it's just going to be, if they do pull this off, what is going to happen if someone does test positive, even in this season for a bubble where they are controlling it, but it's like, what are you going to do if the 15th man gets it? Or what are you going to do if the superstar gets it?
Versus
Are
the
you
number
gonna
one.
is it
Yeah.
going to get handled differently? Or do you think if the 15th man gets it, they get him out of there, they quarantine everybody, they check them, and then, like, you guys are good to go? But what are they, if LeBron James gets this virus, you really think they're going to try to continue on without, it's just going to be interesting if this is all hypothetical, obviously, but
Yeah, 100%.
it's just like,
Yeah, no, like totally. Like when Kevin Durant got it, like that was for me like the big whoa. Like this is actually kind of serious. Like when you see a big name like that, I mean, like even Rudy Gobert, like I was like, whoa, like actually, like that's one of the top names in the league. Like that's
Mhm.
kind of crazy to see there.
mhm,
And then obviously Donovan Mitchell, and then now others have done it.
countless others. It's,
They started to not name them after a while just to be a little bit more confidential, but yeah, like I mean, 100%. Like if one of the big names in the league, if they bring it back, gets it, I just don't see them. I think they just shut it down right there.
yeah, I think so.
They can't take the risk. I mean, like if you have one of your top names, like I don't want to like say it, like
Yeah, you don't want to.
inevitably
We don't want to put it out there in the universe, but I mean, it's just like,
like
it's the questions that need to be answered going into this.
it's like if the worst came,
It's
like
worse,
that's
we're analyzing the worst case scenario.
it wouldn't be the same after that if one of the players like died from it. Like
Yeah, exactly. Like, luckily that has not happened really in any major sports. I mean, I don't want to like make light of the virus, but I think for a lot of these
no,
athletes, if they do get it, I don't think they're in much danger just because of the virus, how it targets weak respiratory systems, it targets
hmm
the old age. All of these athletes are in very good shape and they have money at their disposal where they're not going to have to worry about that. So I'm not trying to I don't think we will be losing any players just
hmm
because of the statistics behind the virus, but I don't want to make lightly of this virus. It's done a lot of bad things, but I think I'd be a little more worried about was what if that virus gets a coach or a staff member? I mean, the coaches are in the primetime age. I mean, there's
much if one person get it, like it spreads that fast.
yeah,
It
exactly.
could get you can go from one like I mean you saw same players on the same team, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. They got it. They spread it to each other. That was a whole ordeal.
See, and what
It's just like, especially if they put them in like the hotels, like Disney or anywhere in Las Vegas, like
mhm.
some hotel there. That's just if someone gets it in there, that's just containing it in the whole building for everyone.
And the scary thing is, even if it doesn't pose as big as a threat to the players because of their age and their physical, think about, I mean, the youngest NBA coach is Brad Stevens, and he's like mid 40s, probably, right? And the virus is, the median age is 50 to 60, and that's most NBA coaches.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think of like way beyond the players
You gotta
sometimes,
think
and
of you gotta
the whole
think of
staff. I mean,
any staff member of the team that is going to be put in danger. That's why I mean, I want basketball back as much as the next guy, but I want it done safe and I want it done right.
yeah, I mean, when I saw the Lakers, someone had it on there. I mean, JaVale McGee has asthma problems, so like he's someone who would be at risk for it. So I mean, there's a lot of things that just could go wrong.
There's so many variables in this, and it's like it would be awesome to see basketball, and man, I would love to have it back. Basketball is my one of my favorite things to watch,
Oh yeah,
but it doesn't.
I could do without it for a while if it
It,
means.
it sucks that the NBA will probably lose like close to damn near $1 billion probably in revenue this year. And like that sucks for them, and that's obviously a big incentive to try to get this to work. But it's like if we have to wait till next season, I mean, you just gotta. I'm optimistic that it will happen, but this is bigger than basketball, like we said earlier. They gotta
Mhm.
if they don't know for a like 100% that this is gonna be safe and this is the best way to do it, and they're gonna be able to bring basketball back and they're gonna be able to do it right with still not. I just don't think as much as we all want to see basketball, it's not worth the risk from a moral standpoint.
No, but there is one sport that opened up today. Another one, soccer in Germany. I think I talked about this last
Yeah, the
week.
German soccer league.
The Bundesliga. So they had they're the first return first games back today. They had no fans in any of the stadiums. That was one of the things. Most of the players and all the only coaches, managers, and like the reserve players were allowed on the sidelines. And yeah, I mean, I think it went really well. So, I mean, under a controlled circumstance, it's the first day. I mean, who knows? Like, we don't know anything yet, but
exactly.
Under the circumstances, I mean, it seems like a controlled situation could work. I'm not saying like it's definitely going to work every single time, but
only difference between Germany and us is I'm pretty sure Germany has probably hit their curve with the coronavirus, and just because it was over there first, we're not there yet, and over here I don't think is the big problem. As states are looking to reopen, I think a spike could happen again. It's just gonna be. It's gonna be a weird time.
Yeah, I mean, you could just drag it on like this, but we can't forever. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, as much as we should be. I mean, there was people still just not following regulations even before then, so it wasn't gonna stop everyone. And if you're just gonna open it up, like it's just gonna.
I listened to this on another podcast I listened to. That the Taiwan Basketball League had their finals the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think they stopped.
Wow. I mean, cool. Good for Taiwan. I mean, I guess I don't know what's the situation like looking over there. I mean, they could be one of the ones over the curve too. I mean,
exactly. It's a numbers game.
It's just like the U.S. is just so, I guess, I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. Just weird about it. I mean, you have people who don't follow any regulations. You have some who stick to the code no matter what. And I mean,
people that won't leave their houses.
Yeah, you have some people who don't leave their houses, who can't leave their houses, but also the ones who choose not to. So
it's just crazy times we're living in, and it'd be great to have basketball back, but we got to do it right. I would not be upset if there was no basketball, but I also would love it if it was back. But I understand that if it doesn't come back, it's kind of for the best. But I'm pretty optimistic about it because I think Adam Silver would have, if they did not think they could do this, Adam Silver would have canceled the season a while ago.
They would not be dragging it on this long.
That's why if Adam Silver knew they couldn't do this, he wouldn't be like, I'm gonna give a decision in 2 to 4 weeks, because he knows right now they think they can do it, and they just want to look at this next month to analyze everything, have more scientists and doctors and analyze the situation just to be sure. That's why I'm remaining optimistic, and I personally do think we will see NBA basketball this year.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like a test with most of the states reopening and kind of getting some more stuff out there.
For example, Florida has already said that any major league sports team that needs a home during all of this, if their state's not going to let them, they will. So there's Disneyland right off the bat for the NBA to have that season in the bubble. So I'm optimistic. I truly think it will happen. I just hope it is done right and we don't look back at this as a regret.
Do you think we see a football season off the start?
Yes.
Fanless, I take it, yeah.
Fanless for probably the whole season, yes.
Yeah. It's gonna be so weird. It's just gonna be like people just smashing into each other with like no sounds. It's just kind of like
you're gonna hear a lot more of the trash talk off from the from the middle linebackers pointing at the quarterback like, I'm getting you here. It's gonna be interesting.
All the callouts are gonna be so much like harder for them to do to each other. They'd be sneaky with it.
I know.
Oh, dude, that's kind of crazy.
It's gonna be different. But man, oh man, I just hope NFL starts on time. I need my fantasy football, Jacob.
Oh, one of those guys.
Yeah, you gonna get into it this year?
I'll see. I mean, I didn't
for the goat shed, Jacob.
See.
We gotta make fantasy football pods.
Okay, maybe you'll convince me on that. But okay,
yes,
the only thing holding me back is I feel like I have some bad judgments sometimes. Like the one year I was gonna do it again, was the year Andrew Luck retired, and I definitely would have drafted him like first overall, I think, or not. I wouldn't have been first, but like in the first round. So that would have been it right there. I would have been done. I would have been toast.
Jacob, not even Patty Mahomes would go in the first round. Quarterbacks,
Dude.
dude.
Yeah.
I drafted a quarterback with like my 9th or 10th round pick.
I don't play fantasy that much. See, I don't know.
Quarterbacks, I guess whatever. We'll talk about this if anyone's tuned in this far, and this is interesting because quarterbacks don't provide the same amount of value as a running back or receiver because there's 30 starting quarterbacks, and there's a good chance that Ben Roethlisberger, who you can get late in the draft, is going to do the same as Andrew Luck, just because quarterbacks are going to get you like to 20 to 30 points normally. But then, when you get down the line on the running backs or the wide receivers, there's not as many good ones. Like there's 30 quarterbacks that will get you points, but there is not 30 wide receivers that are going to get you 20 plus. But there's 30
so I'm looking for like a Christian McCaffrey in the first round.
In the first round, you were looking for a running back that is prevalent in the run game, but if you're in a PPR league, you are looking for, because that's points per reception, so every time they catch a ball, they get a point. So Christian McCaffrey is probably the best fantasy player. He'll go number 1 overall, just because of all the receptions
he catches and he...
Yeah, you're looking for... You're not looking for quarterbacks early. Patty Mahomes is the only exception. Patty Mahomes will probably go in... Depending on the draft, he could go in the first round, which would be a mistake, but he's going to go in the second or third round probably, just because he will get you 30 plus normally.
He will get you some good points, yeah.
But no, I normally go for like a Russell Wilson type player in like the 6th or 7th round.
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So like, I definitely want to talk about this more. Like, I might have to get into it this year.
I can help you.
We can start the updates on the fantasy pod. We can do that like every week.
Like at the opening? Yeah, I'm down. Oh, that would be so cute.
Dude, that'd be kind of cool. Okay, yeah. So I think you got me there. Might have to do this.
We can have a draft recap, like the following week after whenever we did the draft, because I can just add you into the league with all the old high school boys, and we can be like go over our teams and what we think. Oh yeah, it'd be dope, bro.
Oh, this would be insane. I can't believe you talked me into this.
Yes! Peer pressure because he's getting recorded!
So, yeah, that'll be fun to do. I definitely would like to start that, like on each episode, just give a little update.
Speaking of fantasy, I was murdering fantasy basketball. Let me tell you, bro, I lost once. Oh, I've lost once, and then they went and just shut me down.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, dude.
It's all right. It was a random league I joined with random people because no one else will play fantasy basketball with me, so it was for pride and nothing else.
I played fantasy basketball for maybe like 12 games one time.
That's everyone that tries to play fantasy basketball, bro.
It just wasn't for me. I didn't like the thing of checking every single day, though.
Yeah, no, so what I normally would do is, because I would just set my rotation for like 2 weeks worth of games and check it like every 2 weeks. And if I got someone injured, it was like injured or someone was resting, it wasn't my problem. My lineups were majority set.
That makes sense, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's that. I mean, do you have anything else to say on the lines of the NBA news that we were talking about, or do you think we covered everything that we wanted to cover?
I think we covered pretty much all the topics we had. I mean, we're just waiting to see kind of the big news, and probably if they announce it during the week, we'll probably have an emergency podcast.
If me and Jacob are both free, like let's say it's a Thursday night, Adam Silver releases the season's coming back, and he kind of gives a vague or even an in-depth plan on how they're going to do it. If me and Jacob are both free, I can guarantee you within like an hour of hearing that news, we will be potted, edited, and up.
Yeah, that's like the biggest news we're kind of waiting for right now. So
that would be the first Goat Shed Emergency podcast, because that is the biggest news in sports right now. Is the NBA going to come back? And so till then, you'll see us Sundays at noon. But whenever in the next month, if Adam Silver does make that, and even if Adam Silver says the season is canceled, I would assume we will still pod, and with the season being canceled, it would probably be a short 10
It would be a
minute
short one,
podcast,
yeah.
but it would be something just so they would know, everyone would know our thoughts on the situation, and if anyone that didn't really like want to go through and read all the articles could just get a quick click and get it summarized for them.
There might be some tears there from your boy.
I'd be sad. I'd be sad.
Yeah, it should be LeBron's fourth, but we won't talk about that. Hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Still a
LeBron
chance.
can still
Still a
get it. He
chance.
can still get it.
There's still a chance. So, yeah. But you got anything else?
No, I think you can hit him with that signature outro.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. We had a good time doing this. If there's any other ideas you guys have, just let us know, and we'll see you guys next Sunday. So, bye-bye.